Hello?
All right. We'll add Tina and Laura now.
Let me get this other thing shut down. I'll be right back.
You do that. You do that. All right. So I'm going to add one more person. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
My major question is Kid here. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here, brother. What's going on? Good evening, everybody on the line. How's it going?
Good. Pretty good.
So we're rocking the road. We've been on the line with Charlie Greer. And, you know, think of something to think about. Where can we go from Charlie Greer? Specifically on Delphi.
Where he left off, is that what you're wanting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, he was, I think I'm right. I think I understood him. He doesn't believe Richard Allen is it. He thinks he's just a fall guy. But I don't think that. You guys?
I mean, I think Richard Allen's a major player. But now,
Oh, yeah.
I think that Lauren may have a slightly different perspective. I don't know. And then Kid, take the ride, he may have another perspective. What do you think, guys?
You know me, I'm always out there, bro. I'm always out there. People got to reel me in sometimes. But I think it was Richard Allen. And I think if somebody helped him, man, I think it was either somebody helped him before or after the crime. Just to me, it just doesn't ring as a two-man operation as far as on the bridge or at the scene of the crime. It seems like that type of crime to me would be more of a solitary type of creeper, you know what I mean? Just to me, it has that vibe or something to it. Maybe, I don't know. That's how I see it. I think maybe somebody picked him up, or maybe his car battery died, or maybe somebody knew he was there and didn't come forward and let, the police know. There's something else to it. Maybe it's a family relative that had a connection to the victims or something, but there's something else to it. But I think it was him. And then if somebody, helped him as an accomplice, and it could have been unknowingly, and then they didn't want to come forward later, they just didn't know. But man, seeing that video, if it was a close family member or a close friend, you'd think you would recognize that person.
I mean, you would think.
Yeah,
sure.
Where are you guys at as far as multiple people or just one person, or,
I go back and forth. The prosecutor is throwing that. We think there may be another actor or actors. I agree with what you said. Maybe it could be, let's just say, the Anthony Schatz account. Maybe he was involved with that, and we know that Kagan's responsible for that, so he could have inadvertently, gave him this, he had this information, Richard Allen, but Kagan didn't know that he was going to go, and commit this crime. Or it could be someone covering up for him who's helped him cover it up this whole time. I agree with that, but then I go back to how could one person pull this off? I mean, I go back and forth. I do. I go back and forth.
The timing of it just seems like, I don't know, it seems either was he waiting at the cemetery in his car and knew Kelsey's vehicle and seen him drive by, and that sent him, the timing is so tight as to the last document we got anyway. As far as him showing up, it just went downstream. There was no hang up. There's no, it just went. Went.
Brad and I talked about that. The timing. That's where maybe that second person does come in. Maybe he got the call. Let's just use, and I think we talked about this on the last podcast we did. Let's do. Kagan had the account and said, "Hey, I'm supposed to meet these girls. These girls are going to be at the bridge." And maybe he got that text, "Hey, they're coming. They're coming at this time." And that's why it was so close, because there was someone helping, not someone at the scene. You know what I mean? I mean, that's possible. And again, this is all speculation for us because we have nothing. We absolutely have, nothing really to. I just hate that he threw in that actors. Was that to buy more time? Was that, is there really someone?
Or maybe it was the close, like you said, the close proximity with the Kagan-Klein interaction and the situation, you know what I mean? Was it, maybe they thought it was connected, maybe it's not, maybe it is. Yeah, it's hard to say. But earlier you'd mentioned that, when Doug Carter mentioned they were missing that one piece of evidence, and we talked about, the .40 caliber bullet and how it was in the Ron Logan search warrant, a week after the crime, and they were kind of looking for a .40 caliber. Do you think maybe I meant to ask you this? Do you think maybe the gun is the missing piece because they know they can tie it to the ejection marks and maybe tie it to the? I always think, man, the ammunition, they're going to be able to tie it to the box of ammunition. I think they're going to go through that guy's closet.
Is he still going to have that? Is he still going to have that box?
Most people do. I mean, most guys I know, man, they keep a lot, and if I doubt he reloads. It doesn't seem like he's that much of an outdoorsman. And if he doesn't shoot a lot, which, I haven't seen a lot, his YouTube, or his Facebook, it's been deleted, a lot of it's been deleted and stuff, but you've never seen a lot where he was like in a shooting club or stuff like that. So you wouldn't think he would be going through that much ammo other than target practice. And that's
what I wondered, because I grew up on a farm, and my dad, he went through gun shells constantly. He was always buying new boxes, but he was out hunting, and him and my brother target practiced all the time. And like you said, there's not a lot of him on social media at all, to come to.
The way the ATF is now, though, if he bought those bullets, the way the ATF and after the Unabomber and all that and how gunpowder they know where they can probably account for. If you gave them a bullet, they could probably get you pretty close to where it was purchased, what batch, what time, you know what I mean? They could probably get pretty close to it, and it would be it'd be a jackpot if they could find that exact box where that bullet came from, and they can go, look, it came from this batch, this plant at this time. This is the exact same box. I always thought that maybe that's, maybe that piece, that gun, and then being able to match the ammo that was run through the gun. And look, you got the exact same box that comes from.
And that very well could be. Brad and I were talking about, Tobe doing an interview, and he had that bullet on his desk, a .40 caliber. Was that,
That is some Jedi mind tricks. Is that not a Jedi mind trick? Is that not a...
Yeah. All we need is your gun. As soon as we match the gun, we'll have you. So maybe you're, that may be exactly right. But I'm a Doug Carter fan, and I know people aren't. And if they want to come at me, because I'll fight you on Doug Carter because he was so giddy afterwards, talking to reporters and stuff. And I don't think he would have put himself out there if he wasn't sure that Richard Allen was the guy. He was so giddy inside, he couldn't help but express it by just the smiles and stuff when a reporter asked him, was he their guy, or however she put it, and he said, well, a judge signed off on the probable cause, didn't he? He was just So we don't know what they've had. They have kept this so quiet. And maybe this is, you and I were talking about this just a few minutes ago, about how Indiana has the most unsolved crimes, one of the top 3 actually in the United States for states not solving crimes. But maybe they have solved this one, and they have had this stuff, and they've kept it so quiet. We've not known, and if they have known this, they did a good job as far as keeping stuff hidden. So when they did get the person, they were 100% sure. Does that make sense?
Right. But then, did they do it to a fault? Did they compartmentalize to a fault to where Richard Allen's tip didn't make it through? You know what I mean, too? So that's definitely, you can overdo that as well.
Yeah, but like I was telling you earlier, I think the FBI for a year and a half, they were so focused on Ron Logan that they had them, the local LE, just, we got to put all our effort in Ron Logan. And so when that relationship between the FBI and local law enforcement broke up, LE went back to what they said. They went back, you didn't think we'd change gears. Was that the Anthony shots? Because they knew about that just a few days, 11 days later, I think it was. So after the FBI got done with their BS trying to nail Ron Logan, is that when they started putting things together? Yes, now we know that they didn't find the statement from Richard Allen until recently, but is that what caused it? Caused them to find it was going back. I mean,
right.
I hate talking bad about law enforcement, and I do believe there is corruption there without a shadow
right,
of a doubt.
And they're humans at the very least. They're humans, so they do make errors. That kind of happens.
Yeah.
Maybe inadvertently as well. But my question is, I've always thought about this, how many times do you think that they've restarted this investigation and went back to the beginning? How long do you think it took to go through the 70, 90,000 tips every time? Because I imagine it was more than just once, wouldn't you, that they reset? Not just when they came out publicly and announced it, but I think that several, at least it's 6 years, so maybe once a year at least. Does that seem too close? Would it be, or is that too long?
No, I don't. I mean, I agree. I mean, I have no problem with go back until you get it right. Well, how many times did it take them until they got it right? All I'm, concerned with is I'm glad they got it right, because now maybe these girls and these families, can get their justice.
But how do we know they got it right this time? I mean, they've been wrong so many times. It's just hard to, I don't know, it's just hard to believe that just now all of a sudden they just got it right. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just my opinion. It's kind of...
Well, we've got somebody charged with murder. So, I mean, they've got to have something. And I agree with you. I mean, Brad and I, we've talked about this, just hope this is right. Hope this isn't, as like Charlie said, a fall guy, because I live just a few minutes from where Richard Allen's attorney is in Franklin. And as soon as I found out that was his attorney, I told Brad, I was like, oh my God, they better 100% know that this is him, because that Baldwin guy, he has got very prominent criminals off. Very prominent criminals off. So they better have their stuff. And I said that from the get-go, that they better have this right. So I don't know. I mean,
right, and we do come from a country that, we'd rather see, 9 people walk than one innocent man go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the rule of thumb that we've all agreed to in this society, and unless something's changed since then as well. But yeah, a jury, hopefully a jury of his peers, and they'll get to, go out the legal system. But, and just like we all know, the legal system isn't really about finding the truth. It's about who has the best story that they can convince the jury with. Because a lot of times, some evidence isn't admitted for certain reasons, whatnot. Chain of custody issues. The police aren't allowed to admit that there's a lot of things that go into it. So it's not just tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. No, they take a lot of that out to save on maybe time, money, stuff like that, and are prejudiced against the client, whatnot. So yeah, it is still a slippery slope as far as, but we don't know all the evidence we have. All we have is that probable cause. And that's just that's just barely at the tip, the tip of the iceberg, you would think.
Yeah, and I have a friend that is a retired cop, and he told me when he went over the PCA, he was like, I'm telling you right now, I wrote several things to judges to, get probable causes. I'm telling you right now, this isn't all of it. We did not get everything. We don't need everything. They just gave the public what they need, what we needed, what they thought we needed. He was like, I'm telling you, there's several more pages to this. There's more evidence, but he thinks that there probably is. This is what he told me. He thinks there may be someone else involved, and that is the majority of what they kept out.
Right, and that's what how far level of involvement, that's what always kind of makes me, because that kind of is the deciding factor in me is how creepy this really is, you know what I mean? Is this a group of people? Is this two people? Yeah. Or is it just one guy and then somebody accidentally? I want to believe, I guess, that it was just one creeper and maybe somebody accidentally helped him or something like that, because, man, that'd be tough if it's a group of them. That's tough.
Yeah, I went down the group, and I'm still not taking that out, you know what I mean? Because I found out recently there was a group of men at Ron Logan's that I can tie to both of the girls and their families, and it wouldn't have. I'm not even going to talk about it, because when Brad and I did the gang theory, the local gang, drug gang there, and everything else that falls under that. Ooh, that was some iffy stuff, some iffy comments and stuff. So
yeah, and with a small town, so it's hard to tell in a small town if it's what kind of relationship it really is. So yeah, I can definitely see why you'd want to stay away. You know what I mean? Stay away from that. I would anyway too, because
I'm not.
They could be fishing. They could be fishing buddies there, or they could have went to school together, and just be acquainted. Who knows? In that small, I don't know. That's that small community. That's what just blows me away. That guy was just right down the street. With the FBI there, that they, like you said, they were honed on. I always said from the beginning, if Libby didn't record that incident on the bridge, Ron Logan would be in prison right now for that crime.
Yeah, he would if they would have found something. Yeah, I agree.
I'm pretty sure they would have probably blamed him for it because of how hot and heavy they were on him. They literally, the guy, that secret interview the lady did, they literally held him in a cell naked. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the United States of America, man. That's, if that's true, that's fucking deep. That's real deep. I understand that he killed 2 girls and shit, but there's other ways, we have technology and stuff, there's other ways. To me, that seems like they're trying to get somebody to break, not confess to it, but a false confession, almost like they're trying to break this guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and false confessions happen. That happens all the time.
So I can understand why the other lady was, why she's kind of hesitant, because they could be very well doing the same thing to Richard Allen right now. He could be naked right now in a cell, being fed very little or whatever, and trying to get him to cop to it as well. It could be very possible. But I'm hoping the evidence comes out and that it's pretty plain to see that, that the link to it, that at least that he's, guilty of the felony murder.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like an easier burden to reach anyway for the prosecution.
And that gets me too, is that it's, felony murder, that, the kidnapping, that's what his other charge was, and whatever else, if there is a second player, maybe that second player was the actual murderer. But see, I get stuck on, Brad Heath saying that there was a car parked alongside the road, and it was an older model car. Is that where maybe the second person comes in? You know, I've really got stuck on that too. I mean, there's just so much to try to decipher, if that's the word.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. No, go ahead.
There, Brad? I don't know. Is it
you're live. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I haven't heard Brad. Maybe you had to step away or something. But yeah, I always and I seen Randy's video today. I think it was Randy where they're finally redoing the bridge, and looks like they're gonna stop it. They're not gonna let it go all the way across finally.
Oh wow.
So I don't know if you want to go check that out, because it looks like they put the railing up. You know, I just caught a brief deal of it when I was getting in and out of my vehicle. I was checking my phone, and I looked at it for a minute, and it looks like they had the railing up, and it kind of goes to just a real small observation deck, and then it's cut off, and it looks like the old bridge is still there, but you'd have to jump over a railing to get over to it now, and it looks like they're probably going to maybe remove the rest.
Oh,
and
wow.
kind of do away with that hazard. It looks like they're going to do away with that hazard of that pinch point of, crossing the bridge and being, just like Richard Allen took advantage of that.
Oh, yeah. And then we could talk about how, the witness statements, they're all so different and everything. But no one mentions, like the flannel shirt guy and all that either. I mean, did they not see him? Because he was out there too. I mean, maybe not during the time of the crime, but he wasn't seen anywhere out there. I mean, or maybe that's not even in the PCA. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't think any of that's in the PCA. And I think a lot of that too is maybe some people put out some misleading information about exactly who was there and what they saw, or maybe even the witnesses might have been mistaken as far as who they saw. You know what I mean? But it seems like to me that flannel shirt guy was there at a later time than any of the instances in the PCA. So maybe it's after that, because they're saying that there was no male on the trail, right? Is that what, that they're getting at? At 213, what was it, 213, I think they said?
Yes.
So he must have been either at the trailhead, just starting to make his way that way. Maybe being an elderly gentleman, it takes him a little bit longer too than the 15 minutes or something that they say it takes to walk. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe he showed up and seen Mike Patty or somebody, or maybe you know what I mean. I don't know. It seems to me like maybe some of that information, because then you heard about a lady walking her dog, right at the bridge, and then come to find out it wasn't at the bridge. It was really at the gate to the private drive. Mm-hmm. And to come to find out it wasn't the lady that, somebody said it was. Come to find out it's somebody else. So, a lot of, the kind of, there's a couple things in the story that were true, but the overall picture of it seems like that timeline is wrong as far as the lady walking her dog, flannel shirt guy. It just seems like maybe the timing's just a little off, or maybe mistaken for a different day. I don't know. Flannel shirt guy, you think he would be, as far as what we've heard, he would be in that PCA somewhere.
And he may be, because if, there are things that we didn't get.
The lady, they show it all the witness sees the guy walking down the street, muddy and bloody. Okay, so that's the exit point. Where did Ron Logan see him at? Why wasn't that in there? There should have been another witness statement in there saying that the witness statement is a male seen him, he nodded his head at me, or whatever happened, but there wasn't. And that takes that all the way past the Hoosier Harvest store, that the lady seen him. So where, you know what I mean? Did he duck back onto the trails after that and then Ron Logan seen him? Doesn't seem like that's what they think, or they would have put it in the PCA and try to track him all the way back to the CPS building. You know what I mean? You'd think they'd want to tie him to that vehicle there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, all the different cars everybody saw, all the different witnesses. I mean, we've got, 3 in the PCA, and they all could, not
I'm sure they'd love to see a witness see him go, either
Yes.
to the purple
Right,
car
to-
or to the
yeah.
black car. They want to know exactly which car, you know what I mean? I'm sure they're trying to track it as far back as they can to, oh, you seen him get in a car and you seen him drive up, you know what I mean? That would be the best that they could hope for, but it doesn't seem like they have that.
What about when, you know, they at the beginning, you know, they're asking for the driver of a car, abandoned car parked at the CPS. You know, why did they never give us a description of that car? If they had those witness statements early on, you know, they could have said, because the way they all describe them, they were darkers, you know, so why didn't they say have a dark colored car parked? You know,
I don't know, because purple and black are both dark colors. Maybe, you know, maybe they knew. Maybe Richard Allen was walking back and seen that there was another car parked on the side of the road, and maybe that car was looking for his dad to come jump him. Maybe he had car problems, and that's just where his car broke down. Yeah. And Richard Allen was walking back. He sees that guy, or maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe, you know, or he's leaving in that guy. You know what I mean? At one point, you think that Richard Allen's going to see that broken car. Maybe they were playing on semantics of wordplay to not, you know, tip off Richard Allen. I don't know. I don't see how that would make, you know what I mean? But yeah, why they want to see the driver of the car. You know what I mean? That's the only way I could see it is maybe if they knew the suspect knew that there was two vehicles there and they were trying to, you know, be easy with the wordplay so that maybe they didn't put too much pressure on them or something like that. I mean, I have no clue.
That makes sense too.
But if they were receiving conflicting reports of, you know, like what type of car it was, maybe they believed that there was a car there. And there were there were like two opposites, like a white car and a black car, and they knew somebody was lying, and so they were trying to kind of flush that.
Right. Yeah, that could be.
Who was the liar? Because they didn't know who to believe.
Yeah, that could be that could be very well, but. And then why didn't Richard Allen ever come forward? You know, after they came out with that press conference, he knew he parked at the CPS building, regardless if he thought it was the Crop Protection Services, CPS, or Child Protective Services. Either way, there's not very many buildings and shit that you can park at in that area. So if you knew you were there, you're one of very few people that were even there. And then you're one of even more few people that park where you parked. And I mean, he's working in town. He was very well at that press conference. You know, the profiler that they gave said that he's going to be watching this thing. If he's not here in this room, he's watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And then come to find out he's, you know, developed pictures for him and stuff. So he was definitely paying attention.
Oh, he was paying attention.
If he is the suspect, of course. It's all if. You know, if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk too. So.
Well, there's just, you know, when I look back at just doing this for like 6 years, and I'm not going to say names of the witnesses, but there's some of those witnesses that, I just got to be careful how I say it.
Different personalities attract different, yeah, definitely. I understand what you're saying. I do. I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, were they out there for other reasons?
Yeah, or want to be a part of something bigger, or maybe they're trying to, you know, put a smoke screen up for somebody.
Yeah, for somebody else. Yeah, and that goes back to another theory, you know, that I don't feel comfortable talking about. So, but
now, do y'all believe?
Go ahead.
Do y'all believe Libby and Abby were the intended targets, or Libby at least? I mean, do you think that like maybe? I don't know, it was supposed to be someone else.
There's something
I've heard a lot.
There's something real fishy with the timing, man. That timing is just something else.
He was there.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah, I think it was definitely you know, if it wasn't, you think more things would have went wrong. He would have been waiting there longer. You think there would have been you know what I mean? It literally just, he parks, starts walking, and literally it all just goes right into plan.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, I almost think that maybe he was at the cemetery and knew the vehicle that they were coming in almost, And when I don't know which way they took there, of course, but I always thought in my mind, like maybe when they passed the cemetery, he's sitting in the cemetery in his car, he knows it's Kelsey's car, and he sees it goes by, so he slowly pulls out the cemetery. They pulling into park. He passes them as they're pulled into park. He speeds up to the CPS, backs in, and then starts walking in, knowing how long, he's been to that trail before. He knows how long it takes to get from that CPS building to that bridgehead. He has all that figured out. He knows how long that takes. So maybe he timed it from the cemetery to the CPS and then walking, and that's the perfect time that you would be right behind somebody or right in front of them, depending on who they are or what they're doing.
Well, here's something I thought of, though.
This guy, you know what I mean? How organized is he?
Something I had thought of in support of that idea that maybe they were not the intended targets. And I'm not saying I believe that they were or they weren't. I have no idea. But the only way I could really make that work in my mind is, all right, so we know the flannel shirt guy said Derek approached him, asked had he seen, a couple of girls or the girls. And he said no. And what we've always heard, and I'm quoting this from Becky Patty, I know for a fact that she said this, flannel shirt guy said, and this is a quote, "No, but there's a couple under the bridge." Now, we've never seen it, anywhere other than just another creator saying this is the truth because they said it's the truth and then it's accepted as fact. But what if he wasn't saying a couple, like a male and a female couple as in a relationship couple, but a couple as in, no, but there's a couple of girls under the bridge. Now, what if, so the killer was hired, perhaps, and he's talking to whoever hired him or whoever's, his handler or whoever's telling him who to go after. And he says, okay, which girls? And the guy's like, well, the only two girls on the trail, you idiot. Only it was actually supposed to be the couple of girls that were under the bridge rather than Abby and Libby. And Abby and Libby potentially are who he saw. And so,
yeah, but didn't the arguing couple, didn't he come forward and say he was there and he changed the story a couple times because he was cheating on a fiance or something? So it was... I've heard that from other people that he said that, but I've never found where he said that. So well, no, none of us have. I mean, none of this, but
yeah, I think Rick Snee was on that kid hot and heavy for a while. And
well, like I said, I know two people that actually live there, and they're friends with this person's family, and he went to the police.
That's what I'm saying. He was just trying to basically cover up his infidelity or whatnot. Yes. Just telling little white lies is kind of how it was put,
Yes, that's all. Now, that's secondhand to me, so I can't say that that's true, Lauren. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I'm, like I said, I'm not saying I believe something or don't believe it. That was how I made it work in my mind if that were the truth.
Yeah.
But maybe they weren't.
Like the PCA, like on the PCA, it doesn't mention, it seems like what people are saying about the couple under the bridge, whether it was a male-female or female-female, it all seems like those witnesses were there either right after, maybe I think the CM or, that young lady, I think she was there probably the quickest afterwards that was documented, I think. And then then the other couple showed up. Then maybe McCain was there as well. It seems like everybody showed up just right after. The crime's still going on in the woods, don't get me wrong. But maybe the visual side of them, maybe they can't, maybe they've already crossed the creek and they're into that spot where they can't see them. Maybe they didn't, pay attention enough.
They would have to have been. That's what I think they would have been.
I would have thought that at the time that either Sean or CM or the guy that came up the private driveway, how do you not? I mean, you would see something like that going on in the woods. It would catch your eye for one, because people constantly trespass on your property because of where you're at. It's been an issue in the past. It's obvious. So anytime you drive your driveway, you're going to be looking for trespasses just because it's the thing to do. Driving down your long driveway in the country, you're going to be looking for deer, wildlife, and You know, are there any kids trespassing on my property, breaking my windows out at my house? You know what I mean? Just doing delinquent things. I'm sure he was on the lookout for that. I just don't understand how, you know, is that what sent, you know, the perpetrator out of there? Because of all the movement, you know, you start hearing people on the bridge. Yeah. You hear a car go, you see the car. I mean, it's obvious. You know, what did he do? Hide behind the tree? I mean, it seems crazy that they didn't see each other.
Yeah, that's what he had to have done, you know.
Because obviously the guy who drove, you know, if he would have seen him, you'd think that would have been in the PCA, because that's, you know, the PCA covers, you know, before and after the crime, you know, to him exiting, getting to his car. So anybody that said they've been in there, you'd think that their witness statement would have been in that realm. But it seems like maybe, you know, CM, the couple, McCain, and all of them showed up just after this happened. Yeah. Or they were mistaken. You know, maybe McCain was mistaken, and it was another day that he seen somebody dressed like that. Or maybe he seen Mike Patty. You know, later on in the afternoon, maybe that's who he's seen, Mike Patty. You know what I mean? It's hard to say. Until they give us all the information, it's going to be real hard to say, you know, who said what. And
oh, I know. I think we'll be like surprised that, you know, we speculated and believed things that were totally not even.
It's a healthy mind exercise, though, to keep your mind. I mean, you don't want to dwell on it to the point you know it's affecting, you know, you physically, or, you know what I mean, making you go crazy or anything. But it's healthy exercise. Like, if you're interested in true crime as well, it's a healthy exercise to think about it, you know, talk about it, and is how I see it. You know what I mean? As long as we're not outright blaming somebody or, you know, destroying somebody's life, that, you know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows what we could think of?
I know.
Are you here? Hello?
Yes.
Brad.
He texted me and said something about he was doing something.
I want to know where he's at on all that. We've covered quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, when him and I talked this morning, you know, he asked me where was I at, and, you know, I still think that before I wouldn't have said this, but it only makes sense now because of the timing that the Anthony Shots account is involved somehow. Or could he have catfished him on his own? I mean, I don't know. But
yeah, I always thought that maybe, because he has a daughter that's a tad bit older than them. Maybe it happened to his daughter. You know what I mean? Maybe some dude did that to his daughter, and he was like, you know, seeing that as, oh man, that, you know, that's doable, you know, and maybe he tried to track down the guy and he couldn't track him down. And then maybe he learned from the Anthony Shots account. You know, maybe he's seen him on a relatives of his, you know, seen him hitting on her or throwing game at her on, you know, a social media site, and he happened to just see it. And it's a learned behavior that he learned from the Anthony Shots account. And maybe you know, if he sees an Anthony Shots account doing it, who's going to stop him from creating one that's named the same name to try to confuse it with the same picture and try to confuse it in the whole mess? I mean, it's possible. And, you know, Indiana wasn't really looking at a lot of cybercrime at that time. It's obvious because, you know, Keegan Kline wasn't very discreet about it, and he was just dumping loads and loads of porn and shit on the internet, and they didn't catch on till literally 2 girls were murdered. Just, you know what I mean? So, you know, they should have caught that a long time ago when, you know what I mean, as obvious as he was being about it and the way technology is. I know we have a cybercrimes division here where I am, and they catch those chomos and, you know, weirdos all the time. You know, they actively are seeking, you know, you know, looking through Facebook, all those, you know, and I mean, I'm sure some do seep through, but look at how many people he contacted, just cold calls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they still didn't pick up on that. You know what I mean? How many girls does it take to go to their local police department before it goes to a database and somebody's able to go, look, this dude's been doing this to, you know, girls in 10 different small towns all in the same area, but they'll never put it together because it's all small town cops. If they do tell the police, those people are probably going to be ashamed of it.
I know. I hope they have 100% proof.
That's the deal. The only people that can prosecute him legally in our civilized society and that we all agree to are the authorities that we elected into power. You're elected judge, so we have to have some, we all agree to this society to some extent, whether you're born into it, you know what I mean? You got to have some level of, you shouldn't have faith in man at all, but you have to have some level of comfortability that they're going to live up to their end of the bargain and actually carry out justice as it should be, not, give some lame story that's edited a whole bunch with a bunch of evidence redacted, and you're kind of like, well, maybe he did do it, maybe he didn't. Hopefully it's more of a, this is more than likely, you know what I mean? This is a 91% chance.
In my mind, I like to think, it's one person versus fathoming a bunch of men doing this. That's just for young guys, whatever the case may be. It's easier with one perp, come up on this than to think a bunch of perps did. That's just, like we've talked about before.
Yeah, we've seen it in the past with two people. Two serial killers have linked up and tortured people and stuff. But man, if it's a group of people, that's a whole nother evolution of, of crime. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, hopefully, and like you said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And you've noticed that already with Indiana, the Keegan Klein. They've been raiding people's houses left and right. It seems like they're finally, the state police are ponying up. That light being shined on it. Doug Carter that's one thing he's said that, if you're going to blame somebody, blame me. And he's standing right in front of the firing squad, and it seems like they're making the adjustments that they can as far as, cyber crime and stuff like that. It seems like they're starting to actually build a team and do it statewide to where they're actually getting funding, not just relying on your local police to do it because they know they don't have the funding. And, with corruption, as corruption as rife as it is in small towns and small communities, I'm sure they're aware of that.
Corruption in small towns.
Right, and if you can get a state program together and put a state task force together that's actively looking throughout the whole state and have your local authorities contact that state task force when they get a creeper that's, contacted your kid, you report it to your local guy, well, your local guy calls the state task force, and there's actually somebody that's going to look into it now, is what I'm hoping, at the very least, came out of all this. So nobody else's kids got to go through this. And their family, 6 years, man. I mean, really, we're better than that. And I know Doug Carter feels the same way, and I'm not, trying to blame him per se, but, as everybody, society, I mean, we are better than that. I mean, that's 6 years. That's pretty pathetic, man. If it comes out that Richard Isle, if it's him, that's really pathetic. I mean, like I said, that's the only people we can rely on. So we just still got to support them. And the deal would be, like you said, hopefully adjust from it and get rid of the people that are in power that allowed that to happen, and maybe pay attention to your local politics better. Vote.
Yeah, that's what they
that's
do.
The only thing you can really do, and in this society, as far as organize and get political, is that's about the only way you're going to get rid of a lot of that corruption and stuff. And still, then you're probably not going to get rid of all of it. Every community has some degree, but not to the degree of groups of men are getting together and abducting and kidnapping and murdering your kids. That's pretty far down the spectrum. That's an evolution down the spectrum. To me, it doesn't seem like a first time type of situation. That's a evolved crime. You know what I mean? Those type of people just don't go out and do that the first time. They start with the window peeping, and you know what I mean? They start with other crimes first. So
I know. It, that opens the door. It was just him, was this his first time, because I've heard profilers say that middle-aged men just don't go out there one day and decide to kill. So it's like...
He had some stressors. I mean, if everything's true as far as his changing jobs and, kind of Walmart making him drive. I mean, but I guess you can look at anybody's life and find stressors if you're looking for them, of course. You know what I mean? it could have been he was taking a promotion and he was willing to travel there. You know what I mean? It could have been he wanted to work there. So, you know, who knows what the exact deal is, but it looks like that he had some stressors about that same time in his life. And his daughter, I think, was married, you know, 6 months later. I'm sure there was some stress involved with that as well. You know what I mean? Just seems like a lot of it lines up with what we've learned about these types of people.
Yeah, you know, again, I think it does unfortunately go back to that Anthony Shots account because he was there. I mean, at the time. I mean, he was in a race. I mean, even one of the witnesses said, you know, that he was walking with a purpose, you know, like determined where he was going.
That's why I think that's why I think that timing part of it, man. Yeah, there's something else to this. Yeah. You know, there's something else that links. Like you said, it could very well be that Anthony Shots account. As to how it's linked to it, you know what I mean? Who's to say? You know, was it bought? Was it mimicked? Yeah. Was it copied? Was it hacked? Was it borrowed?
I know. You know, it's one day, it won't be anytime soon. We know how this drags out unless, you know, the people involved would just do the right thing, confess, and make this a shorter.
Well, I don't know that if it's about power and they're right about all that, I don't think that's the type of person that's going to confess in the long run. I think that's the type of person that thinks they're going to outsmart and eventually win an appeal and get out of prison is how I think that they'd look at it.
No,
rather than confess, you know, rather than confess and go, yeah, I'm evil. There's something wrong with me. Help me. He seems more like the person of, no, I didn't do it, and I'm going to file an appeal, and maybe I'll get out in 15 or 20 years on an appeal. You know, maybe I can get a documentary team to spring me out, like they've done with other, you know, with other stuff. Keep it very vague, and that, you know, keep the evidence, deny it. So maybe you know, who's to know? Because if you get political, who's to say that you don't get a governor in there that, you know, in 20 years that's sympathetic to certain types of crimes?
Yes, it happens. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely happens. I mean, there's people being released from California with life without possibility of parole, and because they treated them so bad in prison, tortured them basically, and they were able to prove it. A lot of them being reintroduced into society. Now, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying it's happening.
Lauren, are you still on here? I think it's just us. I think everybody.
Yeah. So I could see him being the, you know, trying to play the fox of the deal, thinking that maybe, you know, I mean, there's still a way out of it. That's how I see it, but I don't know.
And if he knows anything about, you know, I don't know much about that Rosie attorney, but that Baldwin I do. And if he's found out anything about how good this man really is, you know, he will play that arrogant part, you know, the innocent. He didn't do it.
I mean, that's the strategy of, you know, somebody that would want, you know, that's the long term, you know. Yeah. His foot's stuck in a trap, per se, you know what I mean? But he still thinks that he can still be freed.
Yeah, that's his only way out is if he gives up someone. If you know, he's just the bridge guy, let's say, and he didn't commit the murders and there was someone else, that's his only way of getting a lesser sentence is to give that person up.
And he obviously hasn't, or we'd be hearing about it, or you think we'd be hearing about it.
That's what, you know, I wondered, you know, with the gag order, we may not hear that someone else, would we? I mean,
we'd hear about the arrest.
Because I've been checking, like, arrest records of, you know, people that I've thought, you know, could be involved with this. Daily, I'll go to my case and see if their names. I mean, just
like Richard Allen, I think the state has 24 hours, or I think it was, or something like. There's some, you know, time limit. Then eventually they got to release who it is and what the crime is. So eventually,
2 hours.
So 3 days. So, I mean, they'd be able to hold it from us for 3 days, basically, and keep it, you know, just like they did Richard Allen, I guess, and keep it secret for 3 days. Maybe do it over the weekend and get 5 days. I don't know. You know what I mean? Exactly.
What they did. Yeah.
Right, like kind of do like they did with him, get a couple, get that long weekend type situation on him. So it's hard to say, until that trial starts or, maybe discovery hits and the defense starts. Well, no, they got the gag order, so nobody should be really talking.
I know. I watched this one guy today, and I couldn't tell you what his name was, even giving credit for his video, but he's ex-LE, and he was, debunking that Daily Mail article. And, he made such good points that I didn't even, think of when he was going over, I think it's Southern, let me think a second. Cannot think of the name now. But anyways, he was just saying how, debunking that they just took a bunch of stuff that they've heard lately and threw it all into one, making these all like Ron, because they were saying Ron Logan, Kagan, and Richard Allen. And I mean, his video was so good. He just like debunked all that, which, we talked about that, Brad and I, that how in the world are they going to leak that? That's what this guy was saying. There's a gag order. They can't leak new information like that Daily UK Mail thing was trying to make it seem like they had new information. Okay, well, are we done?